You're watching Connect the World. I'm Lynda Kinkade. Welcome back. Well, we have had more frustrating news for Australians stranded abroad. Australia is planning to cut international arrivals by half beginning July 14th until the end of the year. And that's after there were already passenger caps in place. Well, earlier Prime Minister Scott Morrison said this would reduce the stress of the country's current quarantine process. He also announced a 4-phase plan to start managing the virus more like the flu. It would make lockdowns a last resort and get more Australians vaccinated against COVID-19. Well, right now, Australia has one of the lowest COVID vaccination rates among wealthy nations at less than 8% of the population. Well, my next guest is planning to leave Australia for good over what she calls the unnecessarily cruel and devastating impact the COVID response has had on her family. Her husband lives and works here in the United States, and Australia has rejected her application to leave the country to see her husband at least 8 times. Cristina Williams is quarantining in a home in Sydney right now, a hotel I think it is. After finally being reunited with her husband, she joins us now via Skype. Cristina, good to have you with us. So we are seeing this nationwide lockdown in Australia right now, and it's been completely cut off from the rest of the world for pretty much since the pandemic began. Take us through what you and your family have gone through.
Hi, Lynda. Thank you, and thank you for highlighting this really important issue. We do feel like the forgotten Australians. As you rightfully said, it's not only just the inability to fly in, but it's the complete ban to fly out. And that has been in place since March 2020. And we were all happy to pay a price in the short term. We knew Australian borders had to be shut to keep everybody safe. We were happy to do that. And but it's gone on, as you said. There's only been some kind of inkling of a plan spoken about now. It's too little, too late. Families like ours have suffered too much. So my husband works and lives in the US, and I'm here in Australia with my 4 boys. And we usually used to travel back and forth between both countries, but our family's just been broken in half because of these measures.
So you and your husband, your kids were completely separated for how long?
Our family's only been together once in now nearly 2 years. It's okay, for that to have been the case for a few months, but when your children are 8 years old and 10 years old and their family is apart for 2 years, that's life-altering when you're little.
Exactly. I mean, children change so much month by month at that young age. And I can't imagine how tough it's been for your husband as well not to see them.
It's been absolutely heartbreaking. And, we're one of the lucky ones because we've had the chance to have Matt home. Fortunately, because he has a double passport. I speak out on behalf of the people that haven't. I've got a friend who's celebrated her 7-year-old's birthday by Zoom. She hasn't seen him since he was 5. There's people who missed out medical treatment for their 3-year-old abroad, people who've lost jobs, who've not seen dying loved ones. The stories are heartbreaking and it's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's especially tough. It's been a really long period. I had a baby last year and I've got parents and in-laws and family in Australia. And even those in healthcare that are fully vaccinated are not allowed to leave. Just explain that, because I don't think a lot of people realise that.
There is a complete and utter ban. Even if you're wanting to leave permanently, even if you're vaccinated, even if you've got a dying mum abroad, you can stack up the reasons. Now, they say that there is an exemption process, and it's really what the government hides behind. Oh, if you have a really big reason, you can apply through an exemption process. But most of those exemptions are denied. And sometimes it's a kick in the teeth because we see tennis stars and movie stars come and go. But for the average Australian, we're paying a price. Now, we're not saying we should swing the doors open. But when those people really have important, essential reasons to travel, we should have the freedom, especially now vaccinated, and if we're willing to quarantine on return. We've been asking them why question now for way too long. Why won't you give us back our freedom?
And even for Australians who want to go home, who are abroad, there is the passenger cap on arrivals, which is only going to get tougher. So it is especially difficult. What do you make of the fact that we have seen these lockdowns, but then you see people like the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia going about business without wearing a mask in the midst of a lockdown in Sydney?
Look, it's just the double standards are absolutely incredible. It's like, you know, so many people in Australia have relatives in England. So many people are just absolutely heartbroken from not being able to see grandparents and family members. And meanwhile, we get to see the Prime Minister on tour on a pub crawl, essentially, in the UK. There's a real lack of sensitivity. As I said, this plan, or you know, that lacks dates and actual timeframes and actual numbers so far, it is so little, so late. You can't plan your life as a family on the hope that you know, it's like saying we're taking the kids to Disney. We're taking all you kids to Disneyland and not telling them when or how. It's such a loose promise, and families can't live this way.
And what it sounds to me is especially difficult is the fact that the vaccination rollout has been so slow there. And even though it looks like most Australians might potentially be vaccinated by the end of the year, it doesn't seem that restrictions will really be eased, maybe not until mid next year.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the reasons why there is this vaccine hesitancy. The government has created its own problem. It's a stalemate because there has been, to this day, no indication of what the future is if we're vaccinated. In fact, the Minister of Health has actively come out and said, just because we're all vaccinated doesn't mean we're going to open up. Like, he's actually come out and said that on national television. So you've got people here living in Fortress Australia, which it's now what it's called. It's a bubble. And with absolutely no incentive, no reason, absolutely no reason to go and get the jab. But aside from that, there hasn't been the availability. In Arizona, where my husband lives, there were stadiums filled up with drive-throughs. You could get the vaccine tomorrow. You know, I have friends that have been trying for months to get access to it here. The government has had the geographical advantage of being an island and being able to lock it all down, but they've squandered that geographical advantage, done nothing with that time to improve quarantine or get the vaccine supplies that we so desperately need to open the country.
Absolutely. Cristina Williams, we really wish your family all the best. Thank you for staying up very late there for us to discuss this important issue. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynda.
Well, the billionaires' battle for space takes a new turn. Coming up, a few surprises from rival entrepreneurs Bezos and Branson.